The Committee of the Whole meeting to order at 1 p.m. Jody?
Right, I have to get used to this being my part here, so let me pull up my little script. I got it. Please note that council meetings are streamed live and recorded on YouTube. Attendees acknowledge that in accordance with Section 17(2)G of the Freedom of Information and Protection of Privacy Act, names, addresses, and other details provided when speaking at a council meeting will be publicly shared. Should you have any questions related to the collection or disclosure of personal information, please contact the Legislative and Advisory Services Division for the Town of High River by sending an email to foip@highriver.ca or foip@highriver.ca.
Thanks, Jody. I'll ask for a motion from Councillor Walsh that the Committee of the Whole adopt the agenda for the Committee of the Whole October 15th as presented.
I'll give you that motion.
All in favor? Carried. Adoption of previous minutes. Ask for a motion from Councillor Smith that the Committee of the Whole adopt the minutes from September 9th, 2024 Committee of the Whole meeting and the October 7th, 2024 Special Committee of the Whole Budget Discussions meeting as presented.
Give you that motion, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. All in favor? Carried. Clean Energy Improvement Program funding update. Jocelyn?
Good afternoon. So as directed by Council on June 10th, administration was to seek funding for the Clean Energy Improvement Program from the Federation of Canadian Municipalities. However, the Alberta municipalities shared an update from FCM on July 30th stating funding granted to Alberta and PACE-style programs has been disproportionately allocated when compared to the rest of the country and other financing models. For this reason, and the high demand for the funding through the program, FCM is prioritizing remaining funds for different funding models in other geographical areas. Although municipalities in Alberta can still apply, more stringent criteria around the program innovation will be applied, and SEEP programs as they are currently unlikely to be approved. With this information, Alberta Municipalities is no longer recommending municipalities seek funding through FCM. Administration has met to discuss options for funding, including internally financing the program through reserves. We have discussed examples such as 10 projects per year or every second year with a max of $20,000. As a reference and an example for other options, Alberta municipalities had provided the estimates with the intention for us applying for funding, which are in the report that are provided. Administration is seeking direction on whether or not to move forward with the Clean Energy Improvement Program by funding the program internally through reserves with a set maximum number of projects and funding.
Thanks, Jocelyn. Questions? Councillor Jones.
Thanks, Mayor Snodgrass. In looking at that, like having an outside option for people to go to, in my mind, made sense. But without that, I don't see what we'd gain by taking this on internally. Unless I'm missing something.
You know, besides making homes a bit more efficient and upgrading our existing housing stock for those that are older homes, for the town, you're just assuming more administration to support that if it's not funded through FCM.
Councillor Walsh?
Thank you, Mayor Snodgrass. My opinion is similar to Councillor Jones, that I don't know that it's something that we need to manage. Maybe make the information a resource on our website for those that are interested in such a thing.
Councillor Nychuk?
Since we're going around the horn, yeah, I'm not in favor of carrying anything forward either. I think there's a lot of these programs that can be self-directed by individual residents. So, however altruistic it may be for council to do something like this, it doesn't seem to fit right now at this time. So, leave it up to individual homeowners to do as they feel is prudent for themselves. So, thank you.
Councillor Smith?
Thank you, Mayor Snodgrass. I absolutely concur with what's on the floor at the moment, and I would suggest that if council was interested in pursuing any kind of greener initiatives, then it would need to be focused on the buildings that the town already maintains, manages, etc. So as far as I'm concerned, it's a great to have, and it's definitely something that can be self-directed from a homeowner's perspective. So yes, that is I'm in agreement with everybody else so far.
Councillor Barton?
Thank you, Mayor. Same boat. I think until there's a better funding model from Alberta government, I guess, and federal government, I think we just opt out and maybe revisit it down the road.
For me, this is a provincial and federal government grant responsibility. That's we've put solar on the business, and that's a federal tax credit that you get for that. But and then we're putting solar on our house, and we got the federal loan for that project, and I just don't think it's a road municipality should go under. And the problem is that the federal thing for your home, the tax credit on commercial buildings is easy. Anybody can access that, and it's just a tax credit. But the federal program right now is full. They're not taking any more applications right now. So pay attention to what your provincial and federal parties are saying about this stuff if it's important to you. So that's where I'm at. I'm with everybody else. Councillor Kinghorn, you good? Okay. Well, it's going like this now. We're stopping. Good. Thanks, Jocelyn.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Good neighbor bylaw amendment.
Afternoon, Mayor and Council. I think there was a correspondence that maybe come out. Was that in this package, Chris? Yeah, so it was to do with the noise from the golf course, and the letter was received from the golf course themselves. So what has happened is we've started to receive some complaints from the community in regards to golf course starting before the allocated times that we have in our current Good Neighbor bylaw, which is 7 o'clock in the morning, 7 days a week. So complainants have come through with the golf course starting before 7 o'clock, which is creating some challenges for the folks, which also creates challenges for the golf course as well during their operations. So this kind of has a bit of a history, I suppose. So we had a noise control bylaw in High River in just going to pull it up here. I want to say it was 2019 that we come out with a Good Neighbor bylaw, which kind of encompassed unsightly properties, noise. It was a whole bunch of stuff all put into one bylaw. So that would come out in 2020. In 2018, there was a noise control bylaw. Within that, it only made the first reading. It never passed. And in that section, it had an exemption for the golf course specifically on operating outside of the hours of operation. With our current Good Neighbor bylaw, it does not allow for any exemptions for businesses, golf course included, for exemptions. It's basically snow clearing for town roadways, fire emergency operations, so there's no exemption there. So that's kind of where we're bound to right now as our current bylaws. In theory, them making noise outside of those hours, in theory, we're supposed to enforce it based off of complaints. Obviously, no complaints. We're not going to know that there's a concern, but we've got complaints on it now. So this is kind of highlighted it. The other one that isn't directly tied to the golf course that we've been receiving some complaints on is the concrete plant in the southeast side of town, operating again outside of those noise parameters. And part of that is, when we talk to them, is we're doing some night work for bridges, which they can't do during the day. So their operation needs to run outside of those hours. So I think it's the challenge, the Good Neighbor bylaw is right now there's not a lot of room for wiggle room in there, and I think it's coming to council to seek a little bit of direction on what your thoughts should be. Should we be looking at an exemption for the golf course, or should there be a process in place that a permit gets applied for? I think there's options out there, and it's, I guess is kind of what council's direction is on it. I've pulled a whole bunch of noise bylaws from Chestermere, Cochrane, Okotoks, and kind of surrounding municipalities, and they're kind of a mixed bag of what they have in there. Some specifically have exemptions for golf courses, and I'm assuming it's those ones that have golf courses butting up against residential properties. And then others have gone and done basically an exemption piece where an applicant can apply to the CAO for an exemption to the noise bylaw for a certain period of time. We get it every once in a while downtown. CIBC is the most recent one, where they wanted to do some work at nighttime where there's no pedestrian traffic, which would then be outside of the hour. So how do we now authorize them to do that work and not be in contravention of the bylaw? So I think there's some reworking that needs to be done, but we wanted to kind of see what council's appetite was and what we'd like to do from that front.
Is there a specific time the golf course is asking for that they could, is it 6 o'clock?
I don't have that letter in front of me. It doesn't really say in the letter. It's just more of an exemption. And they were, and to their side, they've thought that this noise control bylaw in 2018 was actually in effect, which had the exemption in it, but it didn't pass second and third reading. Right. So it only made it to first reading. And then, of course, now we've got the Good Neighbor bylaw.
We moved it over, to a Good Neighbor. Councillor Walsh.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So the exemption that you found in 2018, as it's written, would it be relevant to this situation?
Yeah, it's the exemption, I've got it highlighted here, basically indicates that the use of motorized garden tools or grass cutting device on a golf course between the hours of 6 a.m. and 9 on any weekday or any day of the week are permitted or are exempt from that. So it does specify specifically the golf course. So,
is it acceptable to note that this is fell through the cracks and missed, and it is fair for them to assume this is still in place? It wasn't replaced or repealed. It wasn't replaced. It never passed, right. So can we not proceed on this? I believe that, no, we'd have to start over? Okay. I see.
Yeah, so effectively the Good Neighbor bylaw repealed all noise bylaws, unsightly properties. There's a few that it repealed. So it's kind of the one that encompasses our noise right now is that Good Neighbor bylaw. So there would have to be an amendment done to that particular bylaw.
I think that what I keep hearing is that our golf course, as fortunate as we are to have that, it's plump in the middle of a residential area. So it's almost like it needs its own little host of exemptions to cover it all and be done.
Councillor Kinghorn?
Thank you, Mayor Snodgrass. There's two components to what you're asking for, I think here is what I'm hearing. First of all, I'd be in support of a process that a business like Lafarge, from those conditions, could apply through the CAO, and he can make a decision at that point. Of course, that would be appealable. If he says no and they want to bring it to council, then they can bring it back. But I think for the most part, Chris's understanding of what business needs and how to make the community work. On the golf course part, I would be in favor of putting in, that's a 1 hour difference from, I think right now it's 7 a.m. We want to back it up to 6 a.m. It's a 1 hour difference. I get it. I don't like hearing my neighbors mow their lawn at 6 in the morning either, but yeah, I would support the golf course amendment. Or what would you call it? Actually, you wouldn't call it an amendment. What would you call it? Exemption? I would support a golf course exemption for that extra hour in the morning. And then on the evenings, is there anything extra? I think they're okay at 9, are they not?
I think ours goes till 10.
Oh, they're asking for till 10?
No, that's just what the bylaw currently has in it.
Oh, so we're only giving them an hour in the morning then?
And that's just weekdays,
Yeah.
correct, Cody?
Well, they
Weekends
ask
is a
for all
different night?
days.
No, weekdays, in the current bylaw, it doesn't differentiate between, it's 7 days a week effectively,
Every day.
including holidays, yeah.
So I'd still be in support of giving them that extra hour in the morning. I get it. You want people on the course at 7 o'clock.
Councillor Jones?
Thank you, Mayor Snodgrass. Do we know, I don't really understand why they would need to start at 6 a.m. versus 7 a.m.
I think from what I've been led to believe in talking to the golf course is that they try to get ahead of the first tee time. So they were trying to steer clear of some of those areas where we had the problems, and the complaints have stopped. But I think it's just to try and get out there before the golfers hit, and so not interference with mowers and machines and how they start their staff. And maybe the mayor would have a little better understanding, because I don't know that operation, but that's what I understand anyways.
Yeah, they got to mow the greens before the golfers start.
But don't they mow during the day while they're golfers out there?
No, greens are done first thing in the morning. Fairways and stuff you can kind of do during the day a little bit, but you also don't want your staff running around there when Snod's duck hook comes out of left field at your head.
Yeah.
Not good.
I mean, I understand, I don't live on a golf course, but if you lived on a golf course, there's many things you have to put up with, right? Like golf balls, people in your backyard, little privacy. I think I would be annoyed at 6 a.m. mower out my back door, even at 7 a.m. But I'm not sure that, I guess I don't understand fully why they would need that early, but I'm.
Just to get things done, but, there also is the piece. My mom's one of them that you chose to have a house on an existing golf course. That golf course has been there since '89. It's part of the gig.
Is it?
Yeah, mom's window's getting taken out now and then is just
Well,
part of the
that
gig.
I understand.
Right.
Has this not been an issue in the past or just this year specifically?
I think for me, I don't have any past history on it.
Trust me, it's an issue every single year, every year. And it's normally, it's the mowers, but more so than the mowers, when I was on the board there, it was the ponds and the fountains in the ponds. The fountains are a way bigger deal than the mowers.
Oh, okay.
But that's on only the golf course. That's why we never hear about the ponds, because that's golf course operation, so.
Okay, thank you.
You good, Jenny? Councillor Smith?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So the Good Neighbor bylaw came into effect in 2019?
Come into effect in 2020.
2020,
Yeah.
okay. And so how many complaints have we, did they indicate, or do you know how many complaints we've had?
So we've got, I believe, 4, but that's just this year. So we have, nothing was last year.
Right.
And then the year before that, we won't have any data because county was doing our service for us up until, 22 basically. So the data is not a whole lot of data there for that time period. So we've got 4 so far.
And this is basically an April through October issue because the golf course closed on Sunday. And as somebody who does live on the golf course and does hear them in the morning, I accept that that's part of the gig of living on the golf course, just as having people in your backyard retrieving balls or the fountain. I think the fountain helps keeps the bugs down. So from my perspective, I think the extra hour, they're not there every day. If they were there every day, I would probably have a different opinion, but I do see them try to stagger it in terms of the time that they're there. So I'm in support of, because it's no different than a film crew looking for an exemption on timing. This is just a little bit more frequent. It's April to October consistently.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, thanks, Cody.
And to be clear, they haven't specified an hour earlier or an hour later. They didn't put a time limit in there. Like I said, the old one was a complete exemption. Now, that is an option. Certainly, I don't know if the hour would help their operation or not. If they're going to want more than an hour, I don't know. We never really got into specifics of that time. It was more bringing the letter forward, bringing the concerns to you guys, and looking at options, right? Like I said, in some of the past documents that we have, it was they were completely exempt. There wasn't a time frame. We could certainly do a time frame. There's options, I suppose.
Because it is fairly specialized equipment that they're moving around to get to the greens. So, and I think they only have 1 or 2 of those machines, and there's 18 plus 9, 27 greens that they would have to do daily or however often they do them, right? So I would say that they are moving them around with regular frequency. So,
Yep.
Yeah, okay, thanks.
Councillor Barton, who used to run the mowers, will give us insight.
I think just the hour would be probably sufficient based on my past experience with working, because that's my background is tour management, golf courses specifically. And I used to work with Lane. So I mean, that's something for them to accept or whatever, but just to answer Jenny's question a little more, it's just the fact that when you have 27 holes, you just need to get out there in front of everybody as quick as you can, right? For safety reasons, that's a big piece of it, because you try to have a couple holes ahead so that you're not getting duck hunted by snodgrass. So and then I guess the other piece too, I was just reading this note that he'd put in, that Lane had put in his letter, second last paragraph, and it just says, if only realtors and landlords offered a full disclosure regarding living on a golf course. Is there something like that we can really do, even like when a piece of property is sold, like a caveat saying, hey, there's a noise bylaw on this? Exemption on this piece of property or this area?
It's kind of like when you go and see the house.
Yeah.
I don't know how much hand-holding I'm interested in doing on that front. That, that's more up to realtors. I don't think it's the town. I'm not there anyways. You go view a house. You can Google map it. You can see exactly where it is. You're not buying sight unseen. That's your own problem if you're doing that. But man, oh man, it's pretty easy to see. And if you're not familiar with living on a golf course, that's to the homeowner's own due diligence to educate themselves as to what that means. So,
yeah, fair enough.
Councillor Nychuk.
I think they refer to that as buyer beware, isn't it? But I'm just going to, Mayor Snodgrass, I would just like to reiterate Councillor Kinghorn's comments. I think he's on the right path with his 2 suggestions, so that's where my support lies.
So what do you reiterate? So what I'm seeing is if Cody, if you could come back with what exemption would look like to add to the bylaw and what a permit process, and which route would work best, because it's not we can do explicitly just the golf course that's exempted in this and just name them and be done with it. But if we're also looking at the Lafarges of the world and others, then, right? So, I don't know. That's my thought. He comes back with permit process and exemption options. Kinghorn?
Yeah, that was my thought. There's two separate issues here. One, come back with a process that allows the CAO to waive it, and then the second one would be the exemption for the golf course.
Got what you need?
I think that should take care of it. Yep,
Thanks, Cody.
you betcha.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Joint Administration Building Agreement discussion. Chris?
Certainly following up from the last COW meeting, that council requested a copy of the Joint Administration Building Agreement. A copy from 2002 is here. Our costs are shared based on our operating costs in particular when it comes to janitorial and power, are based upon a percentage of common areas that are shared half each. Their dedicated areas are then based upon a percentage of dedicated areas that they're occupying. When it comes to replacement of the HVAC unit in particular that's on this building, I'll point you to clause 6.02. That cost is shared 50-50.
Any questions from council?
This agreement does need significant rewrite. Pardon me?
Is there an end date on that agreement?
not
It's just
currently.
running through, right?
Yeah.
So can we request
Yes, we
to
can.
the county that we review? Jenny?
I think one of the reasons this was brought up initially last time too, because it was stated that we are responsible to pay the upfront costs and bill them back, but it's actually the opposite. In 6.4, it says that Foothills will initially be responsible for paying all the costs.
I don't know where that changed. I can't seem to find the history where that changed, but it changed sometime in the past that it became our responsibility.
Okay.
So,
But if it's not written down, it's meaningless.
fair point. So, yeah.
In an agreement like that, that's been signed by both councils, and if they've changed it just a verbal, however, whoever, doesn't matter. Let's go back to the way the agreement's done
Absolutely.
and then start it. Everybody's okay with initiating a review? 2002.
For sure.
long time ago.
One comment is the current status right now, do we maintain the building?
Yes, we do.
Okay.
So we manage all the contracts for not so much janitorial that is split in two because we haven't been happy with the janitorial service that the county prefers. So we have our own janitors, so we manage that ourselves. They manage their own janitorial themselves. But when it comes to exterior of the building, the HVAC units, plumbing and heating, electrical, all that type of stuff we look after.
Okay. Yeah, I'm in favor of revisiting this for sure. So,
And we do bill back for that time.
Councillor Smith?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just curious, Article 7, there's a joint committee. Is there still a joint committee?
Not since I've been here, and I can't speak to if it existed before.
Okay, so
Other
yeah.
than IMC,
Yeah.
that would be the only.
Yeah, no, Joint Use Administration Facility Committee.
Has never been brought up. It does get talked about on an annual basis or a regular basis with the two CAOs, myself and Ryan. We talk about it and what this building is going through. But there is no committee since I've been here, and I haven't been able to trace any history of that committee for at least the last 10 years.
What was the committee called?
It was called the Joint Use Administration Facility Committee. otherwise known as the committee. No. But it was about
Trying to
equal
make an
number of
acronym
members
up.
and responsible for
Wouldn't
operation and
be
maintenance.
appropriate. I'll back off. Okay, let's review it. Let's find out. It would, if there is documentation that swap this maintenance deal, contract management. If the county has anything, let's see it. But yeah, something's a little goofy here. So, any other questions? Wide open question and answer. Council to administration. Councillor Kinghorn.
Because he looked at me. So we're in the middle of tax season and we're going through the budgets and figuring everything out. I know probably, I'm going to say 8-10 years ago, we talked about some sort of a vacant properties tax or a concept around that idea. I don't want to use that exact verbiage. And we also talked a little bit about a tourism tax, like at the hotels for staying over to help supplement some of these costs that we have with our projects like the Balloon Festival and the Show and Shine and all those sorts of things. Has there been any work on that? Is there any recommendations coming forward to council in less than 22 meetings?
Certainly, this council has talked at a high level about a vacant property tax. It has not shown up on our priority list anywhere, so very minimal work has been done on that initiative, and that's the same with the tourism tax, it's an accommodation tax because it's attached to your hotel bills. There's been very limited work done.
So what I hear you saying is we need to get that on the priorities chart in order for administration to do any work on it?
That would be ideal.
Thank you.
That's fair. I just texted Jennifer Handley from Nanton to see if they put a vacant property tax in a couple of years ago, so I'm just asking her if it's worth it. Councillor Nychuk.
Somewhat in a little bit of a vein of what Councillor Kinghorn was talking about events in the community. Not to put Cody on the spot, but can council get a bit of a recap as to what happened during the car show and the balloon event? Like we seem to be growing quite exponentially on an annualized basis. The events are very, very, very successful. And I just want to ensure going forward that we're working with groups like the balloon folks, Jamie, you and your team, with the car show people and providing the best environment possible for this influx of people that we have. Personally, my perception on the balloon glow night was there was a ton of people. Maybe we could have used more resources. I don't know. That's why I'm asking I know this probably goes back to the committees and the groups with protective services and whatnot, and they have discussion, but I wouldn't mind hearing some of it as general counsel, just to know how it was going and what we might or might not do, considerations that council might put forward on doing this, that, or the other thing to improve the nature of these events as they go forward in our community, because they're very successful. They bring a lot of people, and it's a spotlight on us, so we want to take care of it.
Yeah, I can speak to that. So every time we do one of these events, we build an IAP, which is an incident action plan for the event. And then after that, we do a hot wash. So after the event, we met with fire, RCMP, peace officers, kind of hot washed out from our side and EM side, what worked, what didn't work. And then we build those lists out, and then we actually have a debrief with each one of the groups. So we just had the car show. Heather, myself, and Steve met with the car show last week, and it was a really productive meeting. So it's every year, we know they're growing, and so we're letting them know, hey, start thinking about what does this look like next year. If you have another 50 cars, what do we need to look at? Any of the problems, we tend to get a lot of the problems that get pushed to us, parking issues and things like that. So those get addressed with the event organizers. There's lots of good learnings from the car show this year. They rented radios. The radios work off a cell network. The cell network didn't work so well, so the radios didn't work. So again, pieces like that are good learnings for us. So some of the biggest learnings are, again, communication, and we want to actually, this will be coming out when I meet with Councillor Kinghorn for the Balloon Glow, put his other hat on. They want to actually join those two big events. They want to actually join forces together in a joint planning meeting to see if we can work out some of the bugs, some of the interferences, because I know the burnout ended earlier than normal, which then we've seen like 3,000 people down at Jamie's launch site, right? So which is a challenge that we've never had in the past. So it's now trying to get both of these guys on the same page and see if we can find efficiencies from porta potty rentals to radio rentals. Maybe there's cost savings between the both of them. So I think from our standpoint, spearheading some of those pieces from emergency services side of it will certainly help allow these things to grow and make sure that they're safe. Because that's our biggest thing, right? Is that if something goes wrong, it's egg on everybody's face, and that's the last thing we want. We want these events to be successful. We want them to be safe, and those are the big pieces for us. So there's lots of good learnings. That we've got a list of probably 15 things to go through with the Balloon Glow. We'll sit with Jamie and his team, and then constantly make improvements. Every year it's gotten better. And I think we continue to grow that to make it better. From a resource perspective, that's one thing we did identify. Like when you would look at the amount of people that showed up this year to the Balloon Glow, the challenge of the Balloon Glow is weather, right? If the wind comes up or it's bad weather, our numbers drop. With great weather this year, it was awesome for it. So we've seen higher numbers. So, for us, what we've done is we've got some pretty good relationships with our surrounding peace officer programs where we actually do time in kind. So they come here, support us for our event. We'll actually go there, do a check stop or whatever their parades are. So again, there's no cost incurred. It's just mutually sharing time back and forth through joint force operations. So, but that is definitely something that we'll be looking at in the future.
Yeah, thanks. No question that these groups are doing fantastic work, and you guys are coordinating with them, you and your team. Thank you for that. And then it was, is there anything we're missing in your purvey as far as resources go, if it's a radio or whether it's a trailer or it's this or that we're getting those things coming forward for consideration so we're ahead of it rather than behind it.
Absolutely.
Thanks, Cody.
Councillor Kinghorn?
Yeah, thanks, Mayor Snodgrass. I'll take off my councilman hat for a moment here, but I have to say that the cooperation between the town and the balloon event this year was incredible. The town staff, Cody, Heather, all of them did an amazing job, and we didn't expect those numbers on Friday night either, but like he says, when you get the weather, look out, they'll come. And his team was just amazing to work with. We had really good radio communications this year. They knew when we were bringing the balloons down. Everything worked really, really well. And I really want to thank the team over there that really helped us put a safe. I don't think I heard of any incidents at all. We didn't even get a sprained ankle, I don't think, out of that whole thing. So great job, guys. Really appreciate it. Thank you.
I got a cramp from waiting at mini donuts for an hour. About it. Councillor Barton?
Thank you, Mayor. I think Jamie and I talked about this briefly one day. Do we have any ideas how we can actually capture the amount of people that we have coming to these events? Well, there is one thing we got talking about it actually at the event, at the couple that we had with us, and it may be something that you guys can search into, but there's actually things you can utilize, like possibly a drone and or it's a counting program for like, yeah, for like trees and all that kind of stuff. So there might be something that we look into, right?
Yeah,
That'd be cool if there's something, because that'd be wicked to have a real number on it.
We do have laser counters that we've used on some of our pathways to count usage.
Yeah.
You know, those could be certainly at main gate points, main entry points, be deployed to just count people crossing back and forth and give us kind of a scope of an idea. But the drain technology with AI gives you a much more accurate account because it'll take per square footage. The other one too is also the car count, is how many cars are in the parking lots, how many are in the streets, and building that out from an estimate. That gives you 3 sources of data point. That gives you an average that says, all right, that adds up to about 30,000 people. That's what we need, right?
Yeah. And I think there's a lot of things you can use that data for, right? For safety reasons, for funding or whatever, right? I don't know, but might be worth something looking into. So you guys did well as a big crowd.
That'd be awesome if there was. There's no question. Councillor Smith?
Mayor, again, kudos to the team because I happened to be on the highways at that time, and it was literally backed up beyond Cargill if you were going north, and it was backed up to on 498 all the way to Highway 2, and I think they had to bring out a police presence for Highway 2. So with the success of these events, which is fantastic and amazing and probably swelled the population of our community twice, if not thrice, what are we looking at in terms of like that management piece? Yeah, there's the big word, you guys, thrice. It's just fun to say. But like, you know, when it comes to the experience that people have coming here, no different than a few years ago, I think there was a bottleneck for parking when it was over in McLaughlin Meadows, right? So is that something that needs to be built into the plan, A, for safety, because as amazing as our bylaw guys were, they were at the intersection of 498 and 2A, and it was so busy. I was nervous for them, actually, in the way that they were, and they had ATS there too, helping, right? So, A, from a satisfaction perspective and communicating that outwardly to people trying to come here, but also from a safety standard. What do we need to, I guess that'll be part of your debrief, but certainly something that I think needs to be factored in.
Absolutely. Yeah, and that some of the traffic stuff will be brought up, and we tee up with ATS and have a conversation about where our choke points were, and then, you know, have a good hard look at the plan and be like, okay, what can we adjust on the plan? ATS does an amazing job with their plan, and I think we've just, again, grown beyond what maybe the plan is, and so it's, you know, what else can we do? And that's going to be one of the conversations that's actually on our list to talk about, is how do we deal with traffic, right? Is there other alternatives? Is there other things that we can be doing?
I think the biggest problem is those that are coming from the city. Google Maps brings you in 498 and 2A. Mm-hmm. Doesn't take you down to 12th Avenue where you've got a whole pile of parking sitting there empty, right? So it's tough to lure people past when they're just using their GPS on their phone or car, and lots of them never been here, and they're just doing as their GPS tells them to. So bringing them past over to 1298 so they can use the shuttle and the parking at Co-op, et cetera, is a lot, would help those two. But I think it's bloody awesome. I like it. If it's congested, it means people are wanting to get here. So the bigger piece is come at noon, go have a bite to eat downtown. You can chill it.
They were bringing their chairs at 2:30 when we're setting up the trailer.
Yeah. See, those are savvy veterans that understand that, right?
That's right.
If you think you're going to get in on those two roads at 7:30, it ain't going to happen. So, you know, getting in here earlier and hanging out downtown and supporting the businesses and restaurants and bars and everything, that's great. And then come to the balloons. Anything else? So I got 2 things on here, Chris, the vacant property tax. I'm going to look into that a little bit and see if Nanton CAO's got any data on that as to how it's helped theirs. Jennifer hasn't got back to me. And then another piece, piggybacking on Councillor Nychuk's start of this conversation, but what if we had a fall event update from Heather and Cody every year for all the events that went on and what worked and what didn't and what are the learnings and how can we make it better?
Absolutely.
It's
We can make that
October,
happen.
November, we could do that. Nothing else? Meeting adjourned, 1:45.